Джош Сойер начал свою карьеру в Interplay в 1999 году в качестве веб-мастера официального сайта Planescape Torment. В 2000-м на посту дизайнера принял участие в разработке Icewind Dale и последовавшего к ней Одно Heart of the Winter. В 2002-м возглавил уже первый самостоятельный проект Icewind Dale 2. Приложил руку к обоим частям Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance и Lionheart. В последние месяцы работы в Interplay возглавлял проекты Baldur's Gate 3 и Fallout 3. 21 ноября 2003 года покинул Black Isle. Сейчас работает в Midway Games Сан-Диего и вместе с Джоном Ромеро трудится над экшен-РПГ Gauntlet Seven Sorrows. Увлекается Dungeons and Dragons с раннего детства. Любит изобретать собственные ролевые системы.
I grew up in Wisconsin, in the U.S. I went to university, Lawrence University. I originally went there for music, but that didn't really work out. So I got a degree in history with a minor in theater. So that was my educational background before that. Actually, I started to play D&D when I was in 5th grade, so about 10 years old. And I played, it was the red book and blue book from basic D&D, like way back. So I played that with some of my friends in my hometown, just a little hometown of 10,000 people. And over time I played, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and then 2nd edition and then all sorts of different other systems like Call of Cthulhu and stuff like that. So when I got to college, I had also played a lot of CRPGs, starting with the classics like Wizardry, Bard's Tale, Ultimas, all those sort of games. So by the time I got to college, I was playing games all the time. It was one of the reasons I was a pretty bad student, actually. Yeah, that was most of my gaming background. And in college, I started getting tired of some of the systems I was using for gaming. So I tried making my own systems, and that's really where I got a passion for designing. I came to Black Isle right as Planescape Torment was ending. At that time, Fergus Urquhart was the head of the studio, and it was my experiences on Icewind Dale were very interesting because we didn't have any leads on the project. There was no lead designer, there was no lead programmer, no lead artist. Most of the people were junior that were working on the project, so we didn't. Some people had worked on Torment, but not a whole lot of experience between us. So, in a way, we didn't really know a lot of what we were doing. But it turned out pretty well, all things considered. And then on Heart of Winter was sort of problematic because in terms of its size, the amount of gameplay for the amount of money that most consumers spent on the game, it really wasn't sufficient for the market. And overall, the game just kind of turned out mediocre. So it was kind of frustrating dealing with that and with the fans' sort of expectations. And then on Icewind Dale 2, that came about after Torn, which is one of Black Isle's internal projects, was canceled. So a lot of the workforce shifted over to work on Icewind Dale 2. It was, morale was kind of low at that time because, the project had been, Torn had been canceled, some people had been laid off. Our initial development cycle for Icewind Dale 2 was 4 months. So it was it was really hard. And it turned out pretty decently, all things considered. But a lot of us were very tired of working with the Infinity engine. We knew the fans. This is the 7th title they had seen using the Infinity engine. So once it was done, we were kind of like, okay, that came out pretty decently. It got pretty decent reviews. It sold okay, but we were ready to move on. During that same period, I had been working on the Black Hound, and that's probably the game that I put most of my passion into. Even though it was sort of titled, or it was going to be titled as a Baldur's Gate game, it didn't have anything to do with Baldur's Gate. It was set in the Forgotten Realms, and it was a D&D game, but Interplay was sort of, because of our licensing arrangements, we were kind of forced to call it Baldur's Gate 3. So it was a little weird. But the storyline didn't have anything to do with it. But I put a lot of my time. A lot of the designers in the division put a huge amount of time and effort into it. But Interplay lost the license for making D&D games in the PC. So that project was canceled and we started on Fallout 3. That was a very difficult time. because Fergus Urquhart had left. Very soon after that, Chris Parker, Darren Monahan, two producers from Black Isle left. Then Chris Avallone left, and Chris had been wanting to work on Fallout 3 for a very, very long time. So for a while I was okay. I was very demoralized, and because I had put so much of my time into the other project, I just wanted to be the technical designer. Not work on story stuff, work just on game system, editors, technical features. But after Chris left, I sort of had to take over as the main lead on the project. And we worked on it for about 5 months, and we got a demo done for it, but I didn't think that Interplay was going to be able to support the team very well, so that was why I decided to leave. Interplay had been in bad financial shape for quite a while, and then 2 weeks after I left, they laid off the team, and I know it wasn't because we had a bad demo. It was a pretty functional demo. It was very sad I was very sad when I left, because when I'd come to Black Isle in 1999, Fallout 3 was the game I wanted to work on, like, more than anything else. Well, it was obviously there were some very new things. I had revised a lot of the special system. Our storyline was, pretty much what Chris Avallone had written over the course of 3 years. We sort of, didn't really reference the things that happened in the console game or in tactics. So it's a very, very deep storyline covering a large amount of gameplay area, about 18 different areas overall. Set again in the American Southwest, but to the east of Southern California, so it was in Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, primarily. And it was basically, the main character didn't have anything to do with the Chosen One. The main character was someone from that region, kind of Eastern New California Republic, NCR, who had been captured by robots and put into a prison facility that was manned by these robots and kept there for, what seemed like years. And then one day there's an attack on the prison by NCR soldiers, very heavily armed NCR soldiers. And they basically tell everyone to get out, to escape. And then they just, very mysteriously disappear. So the player finds out very quickly that the robots from the prison are trying to recollect all the prisoners, and it'll be in this sort of crazy aggressive mode until all the prisoners are accounted for. So the player sort of goes out and has to get the prisoners back. You can, kill the prisoners or convince them to come back with them, or, just grab them and take them with them. But one way or another, they all have to come back, so they're all accounted for, dead or alive. When that happens, the prison computer system, basically, it was basically made for monitoring viral outbreaks. All the members of the prison were, unbeknownst to the player, infected with a virus. And so the player then realizes that all the places that he or she has gone in the wasteland, he's infected everybody. So the computer tracks like where the virus is spread and determines that it has to basically arm weapons to cleanse that portion of the country so the plague won't escape. So now it's basically like it's this plot that someone else had arranged to make, to wipe out and start over. The scientist from Baldur had started this plan. So then in the second portion of the game, the player is given, basically has to follow, if they want to survive, has to follow the scientist up into space, to a space station, and there either, join them or, sort of reroute the missiles or completely stop them. But it was, it was basically, typical Fallout, like a lot of different options for how you wanted to handle it. I'm trying to think of any locations that you return to. I think almost all of them were brand new. Some of them were familiar though. So there were Brotherhood of Steel vaults. There was actually a very large subplot in the game where the Brotherhood of Steel was basically collapsing in upon itself. They went to war with the New California Republic. Basically, NCR was recovering a lot of high-power technology and weaponry, and the Brotherhood of Steel believed it should be surrendered because NCR wasn't responsible enough to take care of it. And there were all these things where it looked like the Brotherhood had attacked NCR, and Brotherhood denied it. So this conflict started, and a war went on. And basically, NCR didn't have the technology, but they had huge numbers, and the Brotherhood had, their awesome technology, their power armor, miniguns, and everything. But there were not many of them, and it was there was a lot of stress within the group, and people started leaving. Like all the scribes, like cut off their cues, and they left the Brotherhood, like wandering out into the wilderness. So within the Brotherhood, there was a sub-faction, this like sort of secret group called the Circle of Steel, and they were like sort of plotting how they were going to reform the Brotherhood. And so yeah, there was, you know, Brotherhood Followers of the Apocalypse made an appearance in Hoover Dam area of the game. So yeah.